The existence confronts us with the undeniable reality that people come and go in our lives. We establish connections, form bonds, and often invest our feelings in these relationships. However, what happens when these bonds unravel? How do we handle the emotional burden when someone no longer occupies the same place in your life, or when you discover there was never the same level of emotional involvement? You might question, how can I stop worrying, or can I truly detach emotionally without losing a part of myself? It's at this moment that Stoicism, especially the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, points us in a direction. The Stoics were experts at understanding human emotions, not by avoiding them, but by learning to moderate their influence on our daily lives. Emotional detachment is not about becoming insensitive or apathetic, but about regaining the ability to act with clarity and inner tranquility. In this article, I will guide you through 5 eternal Stoic principles on how to emotionally detach from someone, with the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius as our guide. It's not just theory. These are practical guidelines intended to transform how you interact with yourself and others. Before proceeding, don't forget to appreciate our content, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, I invite you to join our Stoic community. Also, leave in the comments, as a reflection, the phrase, "I will have self-control." Get ready to embark on a transformative journey where we will learn to face each challenge with the serenity of a true Stoic. Rule 1. Understand the transience of life. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. When it comes to emotional attachments, we often cling to our personal view of someone, a story we create about their relevance in our life. However, the truth is that all relationships are ephemeral. One moment you're close, the next, they're gone. Be it through distance, death, or the gradual fading of intimacy, people leave. It may sound somber, but this is the first Stoic rule of detachment. Accept transience. When you realize that no bond is eternal, you become more attentive to the present. Rule 2. Master your emotions through rational thought. There is a tendency to believe that emotions dominate us. You feel pain, sadness, and anger. These reactions arise naturally when you're emotionally connected to someone. But here is the blunt truth. Emotions are not reality. They are a result of your thoughts, beliefs, and interpretations of events. Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics firmly believed in this principle. We are not at the mercy of our emotions. Our emotions are at the mercy of our thoughts. Marcus Aurelius taught us that the mind has power over how we react to the world. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, he wrote. Emotional detachment begins with understanding that your mind can control your emotional state. Your thoughts about someone can ignite a storm of feelings or can calm that same storm. Suppose you're going through a breakup. You are emotionally devastated, replaying conversations in your mind, analyzing every detail, asking, "Why did this happen?" Or, "How could they move on so easily?" The Stoic answer is to change focus. Instead of giving control to your emotions, ask, "What are the facts here? How can I think about this differently?" You must choose thoughts that free you from emotional suffering, not thoughts that fuel it. Reflect on this for a moment. When something occurs, when you clash with a loved one, feel neglected or disillusioned, what is the first action you take? You analyze the situation and assign meaning to it. However, it is not the event itself that creates emotional turmoil, it is the way you view it. Marcus Aurelius stated, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," indicating that your emotions are a direct result of your internal monologue. Imagine sending a heartfelt text to someone dear to you, perhaps a friend, romantic partner, or family member. Time passes, and there is no response. Immediately, your mind starts to overwork. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Do they not care about me? With each passing minute, emotions intensify. First a slight unease, then irritation, perhaps even anxiety or anger. But what is the reality of the situation? Is it their delayed response causing your emotional storm, or is it your interpretation of their silence? The Stoic answer is to challenge this automatic emotional reaction with logical thinking. What are the facts? The fact is they haven't responded. Everything beyond that is mere conjecture. Instead of letting your emotions run wild, you pause. You recognize that your feelings of anxiety or rejection are not grounded in reality, but in your own thoughts. Marcus Aurelius's advice is, question your thoughts. Don't simply accept them as truth. There was a time when I found myself exactly in this situation with a close friend. We were discussing something significant, and suddenly, they stopped responding. At first, I wasn't worried, but as the hours went by, I began to feel a growing agitation. Maybe they're upset with me, I thought. Maybe I said something wrong. By the end of the day, I was convinced that the friendship was on the brink. My emotions were out of control. Worry, guilt, irritation. But when I stopped to analyze what was really happening, I realized something crucial. Nothing had happened. My friend was simply busy. When I reached out calmly the next day, they responded without issue, completely unaware of the emotional storm I had gone through. In a rare moment of clarity, I remembered Marcus Aurelius's words. Focus on what is in your control. Your thoughts, your actions, not the outcome or the other person's feelings. By redirecting your mind, you will learn to dissipate emotional turmoil. If you're still watching, please like and comment below with a sign you've noticed in your own relationships. Your insights might help others identify similar patterns and cultivate healthier connections. Rule 3. Practice negative visualization. At first glance, negative visualization might seem like an odd or even counterproductive practice. Why would anyone deliberately imagine losing something or someone they cherish? Doesn't that add unnecessary stress? The truth is, this Stoic exercise, advocated by Marcus Aurelius, is one of the most powerful tools to help you emotionally detach, not by hardening your heart, but by preparing your mind for the inevitable losses of life. The idea is simple but profound. By imagining the worst-case scenario beforehand, you lessen its emotional impact if or when it actually occurs. This doesn't mean you become fatalistic or pessimistic. It means you are training to accept reality as it is, instead of how you wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not disturb yourself by imagining your whole life at once. Instead, as each issue arises, face it with calm and self-control." In essence, negative visualization builds resilience. Imagine a person you are deeply attached to, a partner, friend, or family member. Now visualize your life without them. Imagine them no longer in your daily life. How does that make you feel? Uncomfortable? Painful? That's exactly the point. The Stoics believed that by confronting the emotional discomfort of loss in your mind, you reduce its power to devastate you in reality. I remember practicing this during a period when my best friend was considering moving abroad. We had been inseparable for years, and the thought of them being on the other side of the world filled me with dread. But instead of suppressing that fear, I embraced it. Every day, I imagined what life would be like without their presence. I saw myself going through my routines, hanging out with other friends, and finding joy in new things. When they finally moved, I wasn't blindsided by sadness or loneliness. The loss still hurt, but I had already mentally rehearsed it, and that made all the difference. Another aspect of negative visualization is accepting that loss is a natural part of existence. Everything you cherish will one day fade away, whether through distance, change, or death. This shouldn't be seen as a bleak thought, but rather as liberating. When you stop expecting permanence, you stop feeling entitled to it. And when you let go of entitlement, the fear of losing diminishes. Take relationships as an example. Most of us, when entering a romantic relationship, assume it will last forever. We don't anticipate an end, but the reality is that nothing is guaranteed. Instead of clinging to the illusion of permanence, the Stoic stance is to appreciate what you have while it's there, knowing that it will eventually change. This shift in perspective can be incredibly freeing. I had a relationship where I was constantly worried about it ending. The thought of losing that person consumed me. However, when I started practicing negative visualization, I stopped agonizing over trying to control the outcome. I envisioned life after the relationship ended, and although it was painful to consider, it encouraged me to be grateful for the present moment. When the relationship eventually concluded, I felt more prepared than I ever thought I would be. The real benefit of negative visualization is that it strengthens your inner fortitude. By repeatedly imagining the worst-case scenarios, you develop an inner resilience that isn't easily shaken by the ups and downs of life. You learn that no matter what happens, you will be okay. And that is the ultimate expression of emotional detachment, not from life, but from the illusion that you need circumstances to remain unchanged to be happy. Rule 4. Focus on what is within your reach. One of the fundamental precepts of Stoicism, and one of the most empowering insights you can adopt, is that there are aspects under your control and others beyond your control. When it comes to emotionally detaching from someone, this differentiation becomes absolutely essential. Why? Because much of the suffering we experience in relationships comes from our desire to control aspects that we simply cannot. Marcus Aurelius, in his Reflections, continually emphasizes the importance of focusing only on what is within our reach, our thoughts, attitudes, and reactions. Everything else, other people's behavior, the outcomes of situations, the flow of time, is beyond our control. The more you try to control what is beyond your influence, the more you will suffer. Emotional detachment, then, is not about distancing yourself coldly from others, but rather about letting go of your attachment to outcomes you cannot determine. When you are deeply attached to someone, whether a romantic partner, friend, or family member, it's natural to want to influence how they feel about you. You want them to care about you the way you care about them. But the harsh reality is that you cannot control their emotions. You cannot make someone love you, value you, or treat you the way you deserve. The only thing you can control is how you react to their actions. Take a moment to reflect on a time when you tried to influence someone's feelings or behavior. Perhaps you went out of your way to win someone's affection, or exhausted yourself trying to prove your worth to a friend who never seemed to truly appreciate you. How did that make you feel? Likely, it left you feeling frustrated, anxious, and powerless because you were chasing something beyond your control. In my own experience, I was in a relationship where I felt I was constantly trying to keep things together. No matter how much effort I put into planning dates, sending thoughtful messages, or being emotionally available, it seemed like I was always one step behind. They pulled away, and I tried harder. It was an endless cycle of anxiety because I was trying to control how they felt about me. When I finally began to embrace the Stoic principle of focusing only on what I could control, my own actions and self-esteem, I started to let go of the anxiety. I realized I couldn't make them love me more or treat me better. All I could control was my response, and at that moment, I chose to detach. The relief that came from letting go of that emotional burden was immense. One of the most liberating actions you can take for yourself is to embrace emotional independence. The notion that your happiness, peace, and emotional balance are not tethered to the actions or feelings of others. When you place your emotional stability in someone else's hands, you relinquish your control. You become captive to their actions, moods, and decisions. Imagine you are in a friendship where you constantly feel left out. Your friend no longer spends time with you as they used to, and you feel neglected. Naturally, this hurts. and you might find yourself wondering what you did wrong or why they pulled away. But here's the crucial point. Their behavior is beyond your control. The only aspect you can manage is how you choose to react. Do you want to waste your energy chasing after someone who doesn't value you, or would you rather focus on enriching the bonds and activities that bring you joy and fulfillment? When you redirect your focus to what you can control, your own emotional state, you begin to reclaim your power. You no longer wait for someone else's approval or attention to feel complete. Instead, you build your own emotional resilience, independent of external conditions. In my own experience, I had friendships where I realized I was giving too much power over how the other person treated me. If they were distant or disinterested, I felt diminished. If they were affectionate and attentive, I felt valued. It was an exhausting emotional roller coaster. But when I started applying Stoic principles, I made a conscious decision to untether my self-worth from others' behavior. I began to focus on cultivating my own emotional well-being, independent of their actions. This didn't mean I cared less. It meant I stopped allowing their actions to dictate my inner peace. The ultimate aim of emotional detachment is not indifference, it's acceptance. Acceptance that life is unpredictable, that people are unpredictable, and that no matter how much we wish to control everything, we cannot. What we can do is accept things as they are, instead of how we wish they were. Imagine you are dealing with a breakup. You feel lost, hurt, and overwhelmed by the situation. Your mind fills with questions. What if I had acted differently? Why did this happen? Can I fix this? These are natural questions, but they are rooted in a desire to control something that has already happened, a desire to change the outcome. Instead of torturing yourself with what-ifs, the Stoic answer is to accept the reality of the situation. Marcus Aurelius writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles we face are not barriers. They are opportunities for growth. When you accept what is beyond your control, you stop wasting energy trying to change the past or influence others, and start focusing on how you can move forward. In one of the most challenging moments of my life, I experienced the sudden and painful loss of a relationship I thought was stable. At first, I was consumed by the desire to understand why this happened and what I could have done differently. But gradually, I realized that the only way to find peace was to accept the situation as it was, not as I wished it to be. I couldn't change the past, and I couldn't control how the other person felt. What I could control was how I reacted to this loss. Instead of clinging to what was gone, I embraced the present reality and found strength in acceptance. Rule 5. Reflect on the bigger picture. When you are deeply involved in the emotions of a relationship or difficult situation, it's easy to lose perspective. Stoic philosophy, especially through the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, encourages us to take a step back and reflect on the larger scheme of things. Aurelius often emphasized that our problems, fears, and desires are mere fleeting moments in the vastness of time. By adopting this broader view, emotional detachment becomes easier. Ask yourself important questions like, will this pain matter in 5 years? Or, does this person truly define my entire existence? Shifting your focus from the immediate emotional turmoil to a higher level of reflection helps you realize that much of your suffering is tied to temporary circumstances. Stoicism reminds us that no single person or event should have so much power over our emotional well-being. When you are overly attached to someone, it's easy to make them the center of your universe. Your happiness and self-worth can become entangled with that person's presence or absence in your life. However, taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture reminds you that life is constantly evolving and that relationships, no matter how deep, are just a fraction of your journey. You are a complete being with your own path and experiences. At the height of a breakup or emotional conflict, it can be challenging to adopt this perspective, but reflecting on the broader scope of your life helps you realize that you have weathered emotional storms before. Life went on, and so did you. Think of past relationships or moments when you believed your world was falling apart. Those wounds healed, and you emerged stronger and wiser. This is the natural rhythm of existence. In my own experience, I went through a painful breakup that felt like the end of my world. For weeks, I fixated on the past, feeling as though the future had lost its luster. But over time, I allowed myself to reflect on the bigger picture and realized that this person, while significant, was not the defining moment of my life. They were part of my journey, but they were not my entire story. By expanding my view, I saw the relationship as just one chapter in a much larger narrative and began to emotionally detach. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, emphasized the impermanence of all things: relationships, emotions, and situations. Everything in life is transient, and what truly matters is how we respond to these inevitable changes. By reflecting on the bigger picture, you cultivate a sense of inner peace, knowing that life will continue to flow, regardless of your temporary attachments. This broader perspective allows you to emotionally detach, not because you stop caring, but because you understand that clinging too tightly to ephemeral things only leads to unnecessary suffering. Emotional detachment is not about indifference. It's about understanding that life is much larger than any person, relationship, or moment of pain. By seeing your life as a vast, interconnected web of experiences, you free yourself from the narrow view that emotional attachment can create. Ultimately, emotional detachment is not about shutting down your emotions or withdrawing from the world. It's about building resilience and gaining control over how you respond to life's inevitable changes. The Stoic path offers not a quick fix, but a way to inner peace. By embracing impermanence, mastering your emotions through rational thought, and reflecting on the bigger picture, you will find that emotional detachment is an act of self-liberation. So, the next time you feel yourself holding on too tightly to someone or something, ask yourself, do I control my emotions, or do they control me? Emotional freedom awaits those who dare to let go.